I have a few questions for you.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So first, I would actually really, because I've been checking out a few albums of yours. It was one album, I can't remember the exact name, but it was like a live. Actually, I have it right here. Uh, the live at the Rockwood Music Hall. I was
Yeah,
checking out that
sure.
album, and then I was checking out one more, and I was just wondering. I would like to know like who inspired you to make music. Like, could you name like your top like five most influential records?
Yeah, sure. Well, first, I would have to say Sarah Vaughan was one of my biggest influences.
Hmm.
There was a record that she did with the Clifford Brown Quintet that was one of my all-time favorites.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, I learned Shulia Boop,
Hmm.
which was a song that she scattered on. And I loved it because it was so cool how she introduced the band and incorporated improvising with them, but at the same time, kind of just having fun, but
Right.
using her voice as an instrument and scatting. And I remember like each solo verbatim, and she'd be like, Voy, Haynes,
Yeah.
and I'll be like, man, that's so hip. And she's like, we, like, oh, she's continuing the conversation
Yeah.
like it didn't stop. But that's one of my favorite records. Of course, Hubert Law's in the beginning on CTI.
Hmm.
That's one of my favorite records too, because I was originally a flautist starting
Hmm.
out, and he inspired me because he did things with the flute that I never heard done before. I mean, of
Yeah.
course, I heard Herbie Mann on the record with Sarah and Clifford Brown, but he played it so differently. His sound
Hmm.
was different. His concept of improvising was very different. And then he was using a modulator, which I was like, whoa, that's so
Yeah.
cool. And his compositions, they would always kind of take you on a journey, which for me, I love composers that do that.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Chick Corea returned to Forever, Light as a Feather.
Yeah.
Again, Joe Farrell, he's the man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Enough said.
yeah, he played on flute and on saxophone. It's funny because when I first got introduced to him, it was actually through flute, of course, when he was playing Spain. And a teacher of mine told me, "Oh, you should check this out." And I didn't even know he played saxophone. And I was like, "Okay." And I tried. Mind you, I'm like 13, 14 years old, trying to transcribe, and it was my very first time. And I just remember just sitting there and just like giving up after the first two, three parts because it was just
Yeah.
so good.
Right.
But eventually I got it together. But
Right.
he was just a consummate musician on the saxophone and the flute. And of course, Chick Corea, his compositions were just incredible. And then eventually I learned about a record that Joe Farrell did with Elvin Jones,
Yeah.
Trio.
Trio.
That's a bad record too. And then of course, Dexter Gordon, Go.
Go. Yeah.
I mean, that was the album that made me want to play saxophone. I mean, hearing his sound, he sounded so big on his horn. And for me, I was about, how old are you?
I'm 18.
You're 18? Okay. I started playing tenor around 14, 15. And at the time, there were no other girls playing tenor. So
Hmm.
when I played the tenor in the band, I felt really embarrassed because it was such a big instrument. It was so low. There was no other girls playing it. And when I heard Dexter
Yeah.
Gordon, it made me forget all of that just because his sound was so rich and fat
Exactly.
and huge. And then I didn't know at the time that he was like 6'4", 6'5". And in my head, he sounded like a tall guy because he was playing like that. Even though I never saw a picture of him. And for me at 14 years old, I was like, okay, I want to play being 6'4" when people hear me. And when they open their eyes, they see me. But when they close their eyes,
Right.
they see me being super tall. But
Right.
he got me inspired and motivated to try to sound bigger than life on an
Yeah.
instrument.